Okay.
Ready?
Your blinker.
Yeah,
never
turn
stop.
your fucking blinker off. Tonight I get super glue and glue your
Yeah,
blinker.
every time.
Day 10, and we had overnighted again in Kaza. The plan was to end up overnighting in a small high altitude village called Chickham, and along the way see some of the sights and things that are up in the area. We planned a route that was not well taken, and with every route that's not well taken, the chance of not being able to get through or the track not being good enough is higher. So we set off not knowing whether we were going to get through on this particular track, or whether we were going to get a certain distance and then have to turn around. You can see by the sides of the road that there are bales of straw or hay that's been collected by the local people, and that's going to be the animal feed for the winter months once the snow arrives in about 5 or 6 weeks' time. When we saw the feed, we started to think, okay, there's vehicles coming through here at some point to pick this up, so there's a good chance that we can get through on the bikes. But like everything up here and up high, it only takes one landslide and that's it. The road's shut down and you've got to find another way through. So we still had no 100% guarantee that we were going to get to where we wanted to go on this track. You would think, looking around at the geography, that there's absolutely nothing growing there anyway, but you can see from time to time that there's fairly large piles of straw or hay being collected and, as I say, being ready to be loaded and taken back down into the village for the feed for the animals for the winter. So as harsh as the environment looks, there's always life, and a lot more life than you realise. And I have no doubt that beyond what we're seeing as we ride by, there's probably quite an ecosystem of flora and fauna. Here's a truck obviously loaded with the hay. They don't not load them lightly, they fill them as high as they can, obviously. Here we're probably riding at about 4,500 metres, somewhere between 4 and 4.5. It's obviously not a precise science, and it's not like you're looking at an altimeter every 5 seconds. You just know that you're reasonably high. When you see vegetation on the upper side of where you're riding, you know that the chance of a landslide is a lot lower. It's when you start to get to areas where there is no vegetation, the chances of rock falls or landslides are a lot higher. I don't think they can get much more on there, but they probably get twice as much on there for all I know. This track is great today, no issues or problems whatsoever, but with a bit of water from some rain, it would be a different story. Still, probably 80% of it would be good, but there are places where there's clay, and that would be ugly in the wet. You can see here on the right-hand side, this is the kind of area that you get the rock falls from. You get a change in temperature from overnight freezing to mid-morning when it starts to warm up, and that loosens some of the rocks up, and they'll come tumbling down the hill. And you can see evidence. We just went through a small landslide there that's obviously been cleared. So all along you can see evidence of it. This is another landslide area. You can see that there's hardly any vegetation. It's quite steep, and you can see that there's been landslips here before. So this would be a likely spot. Right through here, you can see probably anything up to 1 kilometre ahead of us. This would be prime landslide country. For someone coming from Europe or a built-up part of the US, riding through this would be pretty amazing. And even for me, coming from Australia with our wide open spaces, and especially I come from the west of Australia, where it's definitely very wide open, this is still fantastic riding for me. Just been through another landslip or landslide back there that's obviously been cleared, and you can see to the left hand side that this is another one that's let go at some point, and they've pushed it all off to get the vehicles through. Another landslide that's let go at some point here. Landslides up in the Spiti are so common. It's just a normal way of life. No one really says, "Oh, I'll see you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. because maybe on Monday at midnight there's going to be a landslide." So they try and you need to be flexible in your time setting. You just can't help yourself stopping and taking photos and just taking it all in. It's just, it is a stunning part of the world, and you feel really privileged to be in it. For me, coming from a country where I think the highest point is 2,000 metres, and I come from the west coast of Australia, so I think the highest point's probably about 800 metres or something. To be in amongst these giants of mountains and hills is just mind-blowing. bikes handle this stuff really, really well, and it probably actually helps that we've got some weight on the back of them with all the stuff we've got in the panniers. So, you know, the fact that, yeah, the bike's heavy, but it also is grounded really well by the weight when you're riding, especially in loose stuff. It's nice to travel in such a way that you can stop as often as you want, and you don't really have a pressing time frame. That's the nice thing about travelling independently.